Cheating again, please divorce me. After a not-so-long marriage of 4 years, I finally asked Ash to get a divorce. My in-laws took my side and gave my husband a stern talking to. He looked annoyed and had a blue streak on his temple, but then he grinned and said, "Okay, all right, I'll divorce you. But on one condition. You can make any conditions you want, anyway I'm not going to stay married to you anymore." "Fine, then take my parents and our babies and get out." "No alimony or child support." He continued with a thin smile with a condescending face. "You know, it's bad enough to be cheated on, but it's also bad enough to be cheated on. I'm tired of looking at your depressed face. And also, the handsome man with a lonely shadow on his back who has been divorced is very attractive to women, isn't it?" Apparently, he still didn't think I meant seriously. "Oh, no, seriously? Your new house is." I sent him a picture of my new house. "I am Susan, 28 years old. I'm a mother of 3-year-old twin girls. My husband Ash is 4 years older than me, 32, and a salesman for a trading company. We have been married for 4 years. During our relationship, we found out I was pregnant and hurriedly registered for the marriage. It was what is known as a shotgun wedding. Ash was a salesman who came to the office where I was working at the time, and I admired him as a cool guy from the first time I saw him. We became close through our business contacts, and when he asked me to meet with him outside of work, I felt like I was on the verge of heaven. That's how good my first impression of Ash was. He is tall and slender, with a lean but toned physique, a low, pleasant voice, and of course, a face that is much prettier than most actors. We dated a few times and became close, and before I knew it, we were carrying a child. When I confided this to Ash, he was delighted and asked me to marry him. I was happy. It was like being the heroine in a story with a happy ending. But when we finally got together, the story was not a happy-go-lucky tale, but rather a comic book about the trials and tribulations of a philandering, unfaithful husband. Ash was certainly good-looking and used to dealing with women. I judged it to be gentlemanly and mistakenly believed that he cared for me. And I believed that his immediate offer to marry me was a sign of love, but to him, it was just another tool in his arsenal of future games. I was completely oblivious to all of this and, as he said, I moved in with his parents as soon as we were married. "I can't leave you home alone like that and go to work. I'm worried about you, so I'm asking you to move in with my parents. You don't have a home to go back to, and I want you to do that. My parents passed away at a young age before I was able to enter the workforce. With no siblings, I had no reason to refuse." I was deceived by his words and ended up living with his in-laws at his parents' house. Fortunately, his parents were good people. If they had been the same kind of in-laws, I would have despaired of my life a long time ago. "Don't worry about your life, I'm a good salesman and I earn enough to raise you and the kids. So quit your job and have your children in peace." When Ash found out that the new life inside me was twins, he said this and encouraged me to quit my job. I liked my job, and I was attached to the place I had worked at since I left college. I was a little worried about that, but I was also very concerned about my first delivery and twins, so I did as my husband suggested and quit my job. And quit my job, and was able to greet the day I would become a mother with peace of mind, as peaceful as it looked, just like the hero of the story with the happy ending I had initially thought I would be. My in-laws were overjoyed with the girl twins, and I was truly happy in those days. I thought that I had achieved picture-perfect happiness, that I had achieved a perfect score in my life, that I had not lacked a single point in my life. Then, when I was drunk with happiness, my husband gradually started coming home late. When I was busy raising the twins with the help of my in-laws, my husband began to work overtime more and more. He also started working on holidays. This is a busy time for me. Things will come up for the kids, won't they? If I refuse the company's request and get demoted, that would be a big problem. I hope you can get through this with the help of my parents. I'm counting on you." Ash put his hands on my shoulders and looked me firmly in the eye as he said this. And I thought to myself, my husband is doing his best, so I have to be a strong mother too. Raising twins was more difficult than I had imagined. Every night my babies would take turns asking for milk. When I put one down to sleep, the other would wake up and cry. Sometimes they just cried because they wanted to be held, even if their diapers were not wet and they were not hungry. I was already exhausted. If my in-laws had not been there, I would have collapsed, unable to sleep. But my in-laws were kind. Even my father-in-law, who told me that men did not do much childcare in his time, held his grandchildren in his arms and nursed them, albeit timidly, and told me to get as much rest as I could. I was grateful. In that sense, I was like the hero of a truly happy story. The only thing that left me with a hazy feeling was the fact that there was no prince or husband in the story at all, but that too was lost in the busyness of life, and before I knew it, I had grown accustomed to it. One day, however, a letter found in Ash's bag revealed something. It was a love letter from a woman to him. She wrote passionately about how wonderful their time together had been and how much she loved him. What does this mean? Ash was shown it and then made a disgusted face. Who is this prankster? He fluttered the paper and said it was a bad prank. Ash fluttered the letter and said, "It was a bad prank. Can I trust you?" I confirmed, and he looked displeased. You don't believe me? I feel bad that I'm working so hard to provide for my family. He became angry at me for saying that, and I hurriedly apologized. At the time, the way he was angry made it hard for me to believe that it was a lie. Now I can see that by getting angry at me like that, Ash was trying to keep me from saying anything more. But at the time I still believed him, and I was afraid that he would hate me by making me even more angry. One day my in-laws noticed that I wasn't feeling well. They both asked me if I had something to worry about, and I couldn't bear to tell them what had happened. As soon as they heard, the color of my in-laws' faces changed and they both bowed their heads and apologized. Susan, I'm sorry. Maybe it's true. Huh? What he told me, and it was a shocking revelation. Because of his good looks, Ash had always been dating lots of girls since high school, and it was normal for him to date several at the same time. These girls would come over to his house and sometimes start fistfights right in front of him. But none of them lasted long, and his parents thought he would just keep playing around and never get married. You can't imagine how happy we were to hear that he brought you to us as someone he wanted to marry and that you were even going to have a child. I thought you had finally calmed down. I felt my feelings had cooled off. I left the children with my in-laws and decided to have a talk with my husband. Of course, I want to believe you. But, you know, there are so many strange things. For example, the day I left for work on a holiday, there was a debit on my credit card from a theme park, or the day I came home at the stroke of midnight from working late, there was the smell of soap in the house. When I raised some of those things and asked him to tell me the truth, he laughed hysterically and said, "You shouldn't have cared about that. If you didn't know, you would have stayed happy for a long time too." As soon as I heard that, I felt the blood drain from my whole body. You're the only one who's married to me. Is that not good enough for you? Can't that be enough for you? How was I supposed to answer such a question? Perhaps it was because my husband had mentioned it once, but he revealed his true feelings one after another as if he had been damned. He got married because if he married one person, the person he was going out with, knowing that, would not press him to get married. I had no parents or relatives to deal with. I figured that if he made me quit my job, I would lose my financial power and he would have to do what he said. I was a convenient woman who fell for his strategy. Ash said, "So, if you don't want a divorce, don't complain from now on, understand?" I couldn't say anything and could only silently lie down in front of Ash, who was smiling broadly. It was frustrating. After that, Ash stopped hiding what he was doing. He simply told me and my in-laws to leave if they had any complaints. His in-laws were very eager to believe in their son, but he had gotten to the point where he could no longer control what he wanted to do. I almost gave up at one point. As my husband said, I had no way to make ends meet after having twins and quitting my job. I thought about suing Ash for infidelity and going to court, but the time, effort, and money involved were too much for me to act. I thought that if I just stayed quiet and let him do what he wanted to do, at least I could make a living and survive. I even thought about pretending that I didn't know him and fooling myself into thinking that he was a good husband. But it was my in-laws, of all the people, who made me change my mind. They made me a certain proposal. And I decided to take them up on their offer. From that day on, with the help of my in-laws, I continued to make efforts for that day. 3 years passed. Another affair, please divorce me. After 4 not so long years of marriage, I finally asked for a divorce. My in-laws took my side and gave my husband a stern talking to. He was annoyed and had a blue streak on his temple, but eventually, he grinned and said, "Okay, all right, I'll divorce you. But on one condition. I'm not going to stay married to you anymore anyway." I held out the completed divorce papers. Ash looked surprised to see it. "Fine, then take my parents and our babies and get out. No alimony or child support." He continued with a thin smile as if he were mocking me. "You know, it's bad enough being unfaithful. I'm tired of looking at your depressed face too. And a handsome man with a lonely shadow of a divorced man is also very attractive to women, isn't it?" Apparently, he still didn't think I meant what I said. Maybe he thought I would be mature enough to listen to him if he said so. He took his time, signed and stamped the divorce papers as if to make a show of it to me, and then tossed them like a boomerang at my feet. I calmly picked it up and made sure it was filled out properly. "If Dad and Mom are going to take Susan's side, you all will be hopeless. I don't care." He smirked and even told his parents that. "How dare you say that? You are the father." His father was ranting and raving. "You know, I can have as many kids as I want. Especially without them, I'm not lacking in any way." He said these unbelievable words. "Susan, my son is over. I'm sorry. It's our fault for raising him like this." The mother-in-law lowered her head with tears in her eyes. "I think you should give up now and leave him." Ash looked at us with amusement. The next day, while he was at work, I left home with the children and my in-laws. I also went to file our divorce papers with the city council. Things were going as planned. Ash, who didn't come home very often, didn't realize it, but there was hardly any luggage left in his room anymore, except for his bedroom. He probably did not care at all what was going on inside the house, a house where he only slept when he came home and where the outwardly good he showed his comings and goings to the neighbors to the extent that the world would not think him strange. We had already decided on a new house and were gradually moving our belongings there. For the day when we were to carry out our plan, we had done enough sorting without him noticing, so all that was left was old furniture, junk, and things we wouldn't be bothered without. The next day Ash didn't come back, and we didn't hear from him. Maybe he didn't think we had really left, or maybe he was just trying to punish us, but either way, it was someone we no longer cared about, and we didn't care. It was a week later when Ash called me. "Hey, where are you? Why is the house so empty?" He finally seemed to realize that there was hardly anything left in the house. I didn't know how he felt about our absence, but he called me on my phone anyway, angry about the lack of stuff. Why? Because I brought what I needed and got rid of what I didn't need. I'm sure you have the things you need for your life. Yes, I had left only the things that Ash could at least live with. Dishes, just enough shampoo, body soap, and towels to take a bath for now. The double bed we slept in together was also left in place, as I knew he would need a place to sleep as well. Well, I slept on a futon in the Japanese-style room with the kids, so we hardly slept together anymore. There were also his clothes, his mementos, a few cardboard boxes, and a few ingredients that would last for a while, such as cup noodles and retort pouch foods. With that much, he could survive on his own for a while. We were originally a couple, so I showed him that much compassion. TVs, and other home appliances. I took all of them because I need them for my life. What the hell are you doing? Those things were originally bought with the money I earned. It was true. Ash had taken away my financial power by not letting me work, but he had given me as much money as I needed to keep up appearances. Yes, but if I leave it there, I don't know if you'll be able to use it next time, do you? So, I took them from you. Some of it I sold, 'cause I didn't need it. What do you mean? That house, your father sold it, and soon you will have to leave. Ash, what the hell? He exclaimed so loudly as my ears would suffer that I had to keep my ear away from my phone. I politely explained to him. The house we had been living in was still in my father-in-law's name. That was why we were able to sell it without consulting Ash. So, you should look for another house as soon as possible, too. I've been packing up your stuff to make it easier for you to move, right? Screw you. I was serious. I had been planning with my in-laws for this day. Oh, yeah, and by the way, I think you'll be hearing from my lawyer soon. He's going to ask for alimony and child support for the kids. I said I wouldn't pay for those things, and you admitted it. Sure, you said that. But I didn't admit it, did I? Yeah, I said then that he could make whatever conditions he wanted, but I did not say at all that I would take those conditions. And, just so you know, I'm also demanding compensation from every single one of your affair partners. Don't be silly. I'm not going to pay for that. If you don't pay, you don't need to pay. But I will take you to court and you have to pay according to the court order. Around this point, it was about time he realized that I was serious. 3 years ago, when Ash admitted everything, stopped hiding his affair, and thought my in-laws were going along with it in silence, my in-laws made this suggestion to me. Susan, get a job. We'll take care of your kids. Yes, and when you are ready to be on your own, leave him and live with the kids. They said they would give me time for this. I took them at their word and started with a part-time job, and within 3 years I was able to get a full-time job. Ash, who was rarely home during that day and didn't come home much at night, was amusingly unaware that I was doing that. On the contrary, I made this suggestion to my in-laws. Please leave this house with me, and let's live together. They were hesitant at first, but after many conversations, my father-in-law decided to sell the house to move in with us. Then we put together a more detailed plan. The house would be sold. That money would be used to buy a new house and move in with my in-laws, myself, and my kids. Ash was a well-paid man, and he would get alimony and child support without reservation. Of course, I knew he would refuse to do that. But we had a mountain of evidence. We've been collecting that evidence for 3 years, of course. I don't know if you know this, but the alimony for cheating is 3 years from the time you know about infidelity. I've had to pay alimony to every known cheater since we got married. That's quite a sum. On the other end of the phone, Ash was silent, listening to my words. If you insist on not paying, I will contact your company and have them seize your wages. If you don't want me to do that, please pay me properly. Oh, yeah, and make sure you tell me where you're moving to, or I'll have to contact your company. Ash did not reply at all. Was he puzzled? Well, I thought to myself, even if I don't get your response, I'll make you pay what you owe. Hey. I suddenly heard his voice. What? Why don't we start over? What? I was surprised at the suddenness of the situation. Hey, why don't we? Ash continued in a sweet voice. We are a married couple, aren't we? Don't be so cold. Hey. Ash continued to speak sweetly to me. Ash seemed to think that if he kept talking sweetly to me, I would break down. I'm sorry, but we are not a couple anymore. I've already filed for divorce. Why don't you register again? Ash said without a pause. Wouldn't it be better for the children if both parents were together? Did he not remember his own words at that time, when he had said I could have as many children as I wanted? It was appalling. I am sorry, but those children are mine and mine alone. Why don't you just have new children with someone else? I said and hung up the phone. Later, the cheating partners, who had received a content-certified letter from my lawyer, contacted me one after another. Some of them were married, and those took the initiative to pay me because they did not want their husband to find out their secrets. All the women paid more easily than I expected. It was worth hiring a lawyer who specializes in cheating and divorce. After all, there were so many of his partners. I am sure I didn't charge each of them a very high amount, but I was able to collect enough to send their children to college without any worries. Ash contacted me several times since then, but he always managed to cajole me into getting back together with him. Don't be like that, please reply to the content certified letter from the lawyer. Don't be so cold, hey? He was desperately trying to hang on, but I had not a millimeter of intention to nod. And then Ash said something like this as if he had just thought of it. Hey, what kind of place do you live in now? You want to come back here, don't you? If it's now, you can still come back, just take the plunge and come back. Don't worry. I sent him a picture I had taken of my current house, just enough to show where it was and what the room looked like. Oh, no, seriously? Your new house is? He looked at the picture and exclaimed. Yes, I am living in what is called a high-rise condo. He seemed to have guessed from the blue sky glimpsed from the window of the room that it was quite an upper floor there. Please. Let me live there with you. No. I cut him off with a single word. Please don't contact me again unless it's through my lawyer. I blocked him and bought a new phone. Now he would never contact me directly again. According to my lawyer, Ash desperately asked me to contact him, but of course, I refused. When I insisted that I would strictly ask him to pay alimony and child support, and if he didn't pay, I would file a motion to garnish his salary with the company, he finally gave up and agreed to pay. I didn't want to be on the hook for years, so I asked him to pay both in one lump sum. I don't know if he got into debt somewhere or if he had been secretly saving money, but I got what I could get from him, so it doesn't matter either way anymore. Now I leave my kids at my in-laws and go to work. To be honest, I have enough alimony to get by without working, but no one knows when things will happen. If I can, I should always have a proper job. Besides, I want to stay connected to society by working. I enjoy working every day because I like to interact with people, which is what I did in sales before I got married. When Ash asked me to quit my job and I was stuck at home, only taking care of my children, I felt isolated from society and alone. Of course, I was close to my in-laws, but people must be connected to society. My marriage was like being thrust from heaven to hell, but I guess I have to thank Ash just for giving me 2 adorable daughters and the parents-in-laws who I can once again call my parents. Yeah, about Ash, turns out, because of the lawsuit I filed, he got blamed by the women, and they even stormed the company. In the end, the company found out what he had been up to. He was demoted and sent from the head office to a local branch office. Even there, some women seemed to be attracted by Ash because of his good looks, but of course, the rumors reached them and no one would approach him because of the alimony and child support debts he had to pay. Either way, it's not my business. I cherish my current family and am walking towards a bright future. I'm truly enjoying happy days.